Bom dia, pessoal. Tudo bem com todo mundo? A gente está aqui no segundo dia já do Case Startup Summit. E agora a gente tem o prazer de receber aqui a Sally Domingues. Ela é professora da Singularity University, ela é professora da NASA e também de Stanford, e vai trazer um tema super atual aqui para a gente, que é principalmente voltado para como que a gente pode conseguir se manter otimista e aproveitar oportunidades em meio ao caos. Então, Sally, it's a pleasure to welcome you here, and they're all yours.
Thank you. Hola. Great to be working with you all. I'm excited to be talking to so many people in Brazil because when I run my courses at Stanford and at Singularity, of all the different cultures in the world, Brazilians are the best at grabbing opportunity and moving with change. And so I hope that I can give you some tools and some insight into how to pivot and change in this era of constant change. And the key to surviving and thriving in the kind of change and disruption that we're feeling right now, and we're going to continue to feel, is the ability to embrace change and work with it. And if you want to embrace change, you have to change your mindset. So basically, the way we are thinking has to fundamentally change. And for humans, that's a good thing because we only use a tiny part of our brain and we have a whole other way of thinking that we can embrace. So today in this session, I want to help you understand what 10x means, exponential thinking, how this kind of constant building change is affecting everything in our world. I want to help you understand how our strategic thinking needs to change. We want to look at some of the opportunities around hybrid systems that use digital technologies, but also value human connection. And I want you to feel the adventurous thinking mindset. I want to talk to you about epic resilience and this mindset we need to thrive and find opportunity in chaos during a period of great change. So first, I want to talk to you about COVID-19. Like wherever you are in the world, COVID-19 has fundamentally disrupted the way we are living right now. Whether it means that you have to wear a mask when you're in public, perhaps it means that you're now working from home or being educated from home. It means that suddenly we have huge physical distance between ourselves and strangers and colleagues, right? And so this has completely changed the way we're able to deliver the services and the value that we give to other people. The thing is that this massive change was always coming. So at Singularity, we have taught for a long time now that we're in an era of exponential change. It's called the fourth revolution. And what that means is we have constant change hitting us so fast that we can't really react. We need to get in front of it. It's like a wave. But what we've seen in COVID is suddenly a change in values and priorities. So we've been predicting that this huge technological change would come. But what COVID-19 has created is not only technological change, but human habit change and a change in our fundamental values. So what we're seeing is people suddenly question trust. They're looking for transparency. How do we know who we can trust, who we can safely work with right now? And how do we become resilient, not only to face COVID-19, but to build our businesses and build our values past COVID-19 into a world that is constantly updating and changing. And that's what I want to talk to you about. So the classic way that the human brain works and the classic way that we have always planned our strategy is linear thinking. And that means that we set a goal and then we work towards it. We have ROIs, KPGs, whatever you want to call it, but we know certain things along the way will happen if we stick to our plan. Now, this doesn't work anymore when we have constant unexpected change. So linear thinking is step by step. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. The steps are the same the whole way along. And this is how the human brain likes to think, right? So we like to think in terms of steps, incremental improvement, right? This doesn't work when we're facing exponential change. And the best way to think about exponential change, constantly accelerating change, is to think about COVID-19 and the way it spreads. So here's a diagram showing you how it starts with one person, it goes to 3, and it keeps on magnifying and getting greater. So exponential change, or 10x, means that the steps keep doubling. 1, 2, 3, 6. It keeps doubling, and it's very difficult for the human brain to understand what that looks like. What we do know is we have to plan our businesses and our daily activities completely differently. So the key to understanding how to surf this wave of massive change is to realize that change is opportunity. That if we get in front of change and we initiate the change, we are the masters of that change. So rather than waiting and being reactive and trying to work out what we should do when we know more, we have to take huge risk. We have to jump in front. And that requires us to have creative thinking confidence. Creative thinking is not art. It's not about artistry. Creative thinking is about growth and being open to constant learning and to making decisions based on imagination and possibility. So when we talk about exponential change and we try and work out how do we build a business and how do we build strategy in exponential change, we have to fundamentally change the way we plan. And so here you can see an exponential progress. Instead of setting one goal at the end, we set a purpose. We set an intent. And then we look around and see who our partners might be, which stakeholders might come to us because of our intent. And once we have a platform of people who all want the same thing, we can look for opportunity to monetize. So rather than knowing how we're going to make the money and stepping towards it, we give ourselves a purpose and an intent and continually look for new ways to find opportunity and make money. This is just a totally different way of thinking, but it's actually a really exciting one and one that is very suited to human creative thinking. So that's exciting. Now, I've devised a strategy that I teach at Stanford and I teach at Singularity and around the world with Startse in Brazil and a lot of other startup places. It's called adventurous thinking. And the whole point of it is to throw you outside what you know. It's to throw you outside your expertise and push you to consistently think in the area of imagination and possibility. So I've developed 5 lenses that push you outside your expertise to give you different points of view. And we're going to try one of them after I've shown you how the mindset goes. So I hope by the end of this session, you know how to do parkour and it will push you into this new type of thinking. So a couple of the keys around the mindset you need for adventurous thinking, the mindset you need to thrive in change. This is a creative and open mindset. We need to act with purpose. So we don't just say our purpose is to make money. We have a bigger purpose because what it does when we state the impact that we want to have is it brings a whole lot of other companies and other players to the table and helps us come up with partnerships, helps us build platform and reach, increases our impact. Most importantly, gives us more chances to look for ways to keep afloat, keep making money, keep our business growing. So it's all about growth. So for instance, right now I'm working with IKEA. IKEA's strategy, IKEA's purpose statement is a better everyday life for the many people. And that means every time we come up with a strategy or a product or a service, we check back in with that purpose. Is this going to make a better everyday life for the many people? If it's only going to make a better life for a few people, it's not for IKEA. And so we keep checking back with our purpose. This is a key part of strategy. When you don't have all the answers, we have to be guided by something bigger. Embracing failure is another key part of the adventurous thinking mindset. Now, a lot of people who work for other people are very skeptical of the concept of embracing failure because how do you embrace failure and keep your job if you're employed to be an expert, right? So really it's down to companies to help people understand how much failure is okay. For instance, you don't keep failing at the same thing. But what embracing failure means is that when someone tells you that your idea won't work, you gently say, thanks, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to use every resource I have to fail fast and fail forward and see if I can come up with something new. If it fails, I'll learn my mistakes and I'll continue in a different direction. But the key to embracing failure is understanding that we don't try hard enough. In most of what we do, we don't think big enough. If we think bigger, we use our imagination and we try and transform, then some failure is inevitable, but massive growth will come for the successes that you have. So, it used to be that we could see growth from just little improvements. That's not the case anymore. We're in a new era where people can copy us faster than we can make those improvements and make money, which is why we have to be thinking more disruptively to suit the times. Another real key in terms of dealing with strategy and dealing with business in a time of unrelenting change is understanding we can't control anymore. We shouldn't be controlling the people below us. If we're leaders, we shouldn't be trying to control our people. We need to have them recruited with our purpose. We need to have them with us, and then we need to trust them. So at Spotify, for instance, which is a music online platform, there are open storage cupboards where you can go and get yourself a new computer, new stationery, anything you need. And the trust is that every single person that works there will only take what they need. Trust is super important when you don't know what's going to happen. You need to surround yourself with people you trust, and you need to be doing things in the most transparent way possible so that other people trust you. This is key. But the most important part of a creative and open mindset, adventurous thinking, is that you cannot allow your expertise to censor your thinking. So often when I say, hey, try this, and we're going to do in a minute an exercise where you'll immediately think that's impossible. What you need to understand is that that is your expert brain telling you it doesn't know the answer. When you think something's impossible, it simply means you don't know that it's ever worked before. So as long as you're self-aware enough to understand that's what it means, you keep on trying. So this is combining embracing failure with the idea that we need to push on an idea. And remember, an idea itself is not worth anything unless you develop it into something workable, something useful, right? So what you need is to come up with massive thinking, moonshot ideas, crazy ideas, and then use everything you have, every piece of intelligence, every piece of knowledge to work out how to make that happen, right? At least 5 minutes, which is hard for most people because most of us are very, very distracted. But 5 minutes on an idea, and don't allow you to tell yourself it won't work because you only think that because it's never been done before. It's kind of exciting, right? So the whole point of adventurous thinking is to throw you into a state of mental bearable discomfort. So it's to throw you away from your expertise. Most of us are experts and specialists in what we do. That's why we be paid, right? We're good at what we do. And that's great. But adventurous thinking is specifically designed to be proactive in times of change where you don't know the answers. We need to be working with our imagination and our possibility thinking, right? As Einstein said, imagination is greater than knowledge because knowledge is about the present and imagination is about future potential. So bearable discomfort is pushing you outside your expertise. And the fact that you can tolerate it means you're comfortable with not knowing. It helps you be more curious and it helps you learn more. So here's a little exercise to help you understand the huge difference between expert thinking and adventurous thinking. So I want you all to think of an elephant. Now, normally when we think of an elephant, what we know comes to mind. So we say, it's gray, it's big, it's smart. You shouldn't kill it. Like, don't chop its tusks off, maybe. Right? Most of the things that come straight to mind when I say think of an elephant are the things that you know about elephant. And that means you're tapping into your expertise. That's what we do every day. We have neural pathways that make us specialists. Our brain has certain ways of thinking that solve problems really effectively, and that's what makes you an expert. But adventurous thinking is about creating new neural pathways in your brain. So instead of following the same track that you always follow to solve a problem, what adventurous thinking does is pushes you into the unknown and forces you to create new tracks. That's why it's discomfort. That's why it's uncomfortable. So in adventurous thinking, when I say think of an elephant, you think of the possibility of elephant. What would an elephant be if it was a machine? What would an elephant be if it was miniature but had all the same characteristics? If I had an elephant working with me in what I do every day, how would that change my outreach? How would that change my impact? So what we do as adventurous thinkers is we don't assume we know. We look for what we don't know and we ask the questions over and over to help us walk around a problem and look at it from a whole lot of different points of view. This is how we function in chaos and uncertainty, because it's okay to not know. Once you understand that we have new ways of thinking that don't require us to know an answer, you can then have the creative confidence to launch into this era of massive change and massive disruption, knowing that you are able to think through the answers. So our opportunity right now is that we can actually create change at a new scale using digitization for greater impact. Now, I want you to consider this quote for 1 second. Deepak Chopra is a fantastic mindset, emotional intelligence person. And he talks about being a pioneer of change. So that's what we're all about right now. COVID-19 has caused digitization at a crazy rate. It means that every industry has had to completely adapt. And so we're in massive disruption. Now is the opportunity to pioneer the future in terms of our thinking. So that's what we're going to try and do in the remainder of this session. Right. So I want to talk to you a little bit about digitization, because digitization, digital networks are the key to exponential technology and the key to the exponential change that we see across the world. Basically, because things are shared digitally, they're shared at a pace and a scale and a low cost, or often free, that allows us to change human behaviors more quickly and more radically than ever before. Now, this can be a good thing if we're changing good behaviors, or it can be a bad thing if we're talking about digital propaganda. Either way, you need to understand the effect that digitizing can have on our impact. So when we talk about digitization, what I'm talking about is taking something that was once a physical object or a physical system and uploading it to the cloud or to digitally onto our phones to now become something that is digital, it's technology, and it allows us to increase its efficiency and increase its engagement. So if you think, for instance, of a camera, if you're old enough to remember what it was like to have a camera with film in it, maybe none of you are, I don't know. But if you are, then you'll remember that when you took your photos, you had to take the film, you had to buy the film, put the film in the camera, take the film to the developing shop, and then you had to decide, were you going to get 2 copies or 1? And then when you got your physical photos back, you had to choose who got given these photos, right? It cost you money to develop, cost you money to buy film, and you only had a limited supply of the end photo. Now think about online, on our cameras, on our phones right now. We have this incredible ability to take thousands of photos for free, to share them with thousands of people for free, to alter them, to filter them, to manipulate them for free. It's the same with music, maps, wallet, news. So this idea of digitization is taking something that was once scarce and making it abundant by bringing it online. Right. So now I want you to think about that and COVID-19. So what happens when you digitize is usually the cost of something goes way down, which is disruptive, right? It means whole industries have to change the way they make their money. Because it's much cheaper and because it's abundantly available online and often free, it's democratizing. So more people can access that thing than ever before. And because more people can access it than ever before, it has huge impact. So this is where we change human behavior at scale. The idea that when we digitize, we make something free that was once paid for, and we share it out. And if you think about the fact that within a few years, 70% of the world will only be using a mobile phone, a mobile device for all their online transactions. You realize that basically everyone in the world will have access to whatever you put up online. It's a really interesting thought when you think about how can I impact, and perhaps people you never even thought of before. If what you do is free and it's digital, then within a few years, almost everyone in the world will be able to access it as long as they have internet. So when we think about COVID-19, what's interesting is every single industry was forced to digitize. Education, healthcare, restaurants, and the service industry. And so what we saw was some industries were ready to go, and the digitization increased productivity, increased efficiency, and perhaps it even maintained engagement. But for many industries, digitization is not working. It is not giving us human connection. It is not making us more productive. It's not as effective. And here's a really great quote that pertains basically to all sorts of adventurous thinking, but it's particularly interesting on digitization. It says, when transformation, digital transformation is successful, it's the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. But when it's done wrong, we just get a really fast caterpillar. Now, a really fast caterpillar is not going to make it in today's world. It might have an advantage for a couple of years, but a really fast caterpillar just means we made small improvements. And there's a futurist called Buckminster Fuller who also talked about caterpillars. And when we think about the scale of thinking we need in an era of exponential change, his quote really makes sense because he says, there's nothing about a caterpillar that tells us it will become a butterfly. There's nothing you learn when you look at a caterpillar that lets you know this miracle, this massive transformation that's going to happen. We need to be in a state of imagination right now. Not knowing doesn't necessarily make us not relevant. As long as we can imagine, we can come up with massive transformations. And so maintaining that area of creative thinking is vital to surviving in COVID-19 and beyond, because that's the way we're going to be thinking forevermore, which I'll talk about how we maintain that state soon. But I want you to think for a second about the people that you were reaching out to before COVID-19. Customers, clients, colleagues, everybody's from different industries, everybody's from different fields, but all of us were contacting with other humans before COVID-19. Now, COVID-19 has hit, and we're now forced to be physically separated in almost all places in the world. So I want you to think for a second about the people that you're used to connecting with. And there might be a whole lot of different groups. What is working digitally? What is working remotely? What might be a compromise that people have taken up because they didn't have any choice? And is there something you can do to help to make that better, to improve something that's just a faster caterpillar? So we can think about the people that have digitized and are kind of clumping along and trying to make it work, but also consider the people who were unable to digitize. So restaurants are a great example. You can go where I live in the Bay Area in the USA, you can go and have dinner outside now. There are no menus. So now we have QR codes and we hit the QR code with the camera on our phone and the menu comes up digitally. So there is a level of digitization in the service provided, right? However, we still have to have cooks. We still have to have people serving. We still have to have dishes and plates. There's an element of physicality that has to happen. So think about your interactions and the people that you're dealing with and who might be feeling stress and fear right now because they're not able to maintain physical separation and do their jobs, right? They don't have a digital solution. And I think in COVID, we've really revalued some of the touch points of human connection. We've realized there are some things like teachers who need to be there with students, at least at a certain age. We can't just Zoom teach and expect that kids will learn with the same meaning and the same understanding that they will when an expert is there guiding them through the steps. It's not the same, right? There are many industries that right now are under massive stress. A lot of food industries, for instance. How can you help? Because at the end of the day, what we could be doing right now that gives great impact, that helps move the game forward and brings us growth, is to help the people we normally work with feel more empowered. So right now in the world, there's a lot of fear. And what happens when people are fearful is they go back to what they know. They dislike what they don't know. And that's why across the world, we see social polarization, inequality. And this is a massive opportunity for us to change the game and make what we do completely inclusive. Make what we do not about race or about age or about knowledge. It can be about inclusion and changing systems for the better. This is where I get very excited because change can be fantastic, right? And if you're at the front of it instead of the back of it, if you're not afraid of it, but you're leaping into it because you know the great things, the great impact that you can have, now is the time. Because right now, every single industry needs a new hybrid system. We need partial human connection because we just don't function without physical connection at a certain level with other people. And then we need digitization, not only for efficiency, not only for physical safety right now. We need digitization so that more people can access what we give value. The value we have, we need to share with more people. So if you think about just some of the industries, education and teaching, healthcare, service industries, transaction and financial markets, if we have a huge upheaval in trust and a huge upheaval in the way we do business and all of our systems, here is an opportunity to radically rethink the way we do everything. And I'm going to work through that with you with my parkour lens, which is like the most extreme lens I have. It's a tricky one, but it's also really fulfilling because it will throw you into this state of bearable discomfort. So what you need to get used to, if you think about, if you're part of a company, if you're leadership and you're saying, we haven't seen growth for several years, the reason you haven't seen the growth that you always used to see is that change is happening so quickly that you can't keep up. That linear thinking, that incremental improvement, like, oh, we'll do a slightly better product than last year. Perhaps you're using lean thinking in your workplace, and lean has incremental improvement, right? Constant improvement. Yeah, it's not enough anymore, because for the same reason that digital technologies allow us to share and transform, they also allow people to copy what you're doing. So if you just do small changes and you just keep creating faster caterpillars, you are not going to see the growth you're used to getting. You have to be thinking big. You have to be thinking 10x, exponential thinking, moonshot thinking. Because now more than ever, because we have access to all of these digital technologies to try something fast, to fail fast, to test markets, because we have access right now, it's often easier and maybe cheaper to make something 10 times better. It used to be cheaper and easier to just do improvements. But now, without the growth that comes with that, we need to be thinking in moonshot thinking, transformational, big thinking. And so if we consider that innovation is connecting things in unexpected ways, what adventurous thinking does is creates these huge possibility thinking, these big creative thoughts over here, and then you have your expertise down here. And our plan is to think big and then bring your expertise up to help realize that vision. So we're not throwing your expertise away. We're not saying it's irrelevant. We're saying in a period of change, knowledge is not enough. And if we're going to create unexpected connection, we need to start with really big thinking. And then we need to realize it with what we know and how we know to do things best. And so now I'm going to show you some parkour thinking. And I'm hoping you'll do this with me. So if you have some pen and paper, you can keep on doing this in your own time later. All right. It's an exciting tool for creating a new system of doing something that you already do. Parkour. Parkour. So when I call out parkour, hopefully you'll start jumping and tumbling. And it's a way of getting from A to B physically, acrobatically, in the most extreme way possible. And this is the way I need you to think. It's extreme. Nothing is normal. Everything is big thinking. All right, so parkour is about massive disruption. And this exercise is going to throw your brain away from everything that you know. I'll show you how. So the parkour inversion tool basically says, what is it that you want to do? And we want to look in a lot of detail. So you want a detailed statement of something maybe you do every day. You know, maybe I want to connect with my customer. I want to outreach to my clients, maybe. And then it says, how do you usually do it? Like as an expert, as a specialist, what are the top 3 ways that you make this happen? So I'm going to give you an example, because what we then do, oh, where's it gone? So we don't change what it is we're trying to do. We still get the same outcome. But now we look at the best ways we've always done it, 1, 2, 3, and we write down the opposite action, the exact opposite. And then we look at the opposites and we come up with a new system to do that same thing. I'll show you how it works. I'm going to show you twice because it's hard to grasp. And by now you'll be doing that thing where you go, that's ridiculous. Now remember, that's your expertise telling you it's ridiculous because you've never heard of this before because I designed it. But this thing works. So think about Red Bull. Now, before Red Bull came on the market, the soft drink market was owned by Coke and Pepsi, right? And the way they dominated that market was very simple. Great taste, big volume, cheap, right? Tastes great, cheap, big can. Along comes Red Bull. They didn't do any market research. They said they were going to disrupt the market. So they didn't care what was making these other people money. Tiny can, very expensive, tastes strange. And then instead of using beautiful people or rock stars to sell this product, they said, gives you wings. And then they sponsored extreme events. And they said, we don't care if people don't drink Red Bull at our events. We just want them to be engaged in this Red Bull experience. It's extreme, it's fun, it's joyous. Totally changed the game. Now, if they had done market research and listened to market research, this product would never have disrupted the soft drink market. And that is the key to parkour. You don't look at what other people are doing. We look at what everyone's done and we do the opposite to get the same result. So here's an example just to help you through it. Say I want to sell my house, right? Where I live, if I want to sell my house, here are some of the key things I need to do to sell it. I need to make it clean and presentable and probably style it a bit, right? I need to tell people I'm selling it. I probably have to set a price. I need to advertise it. I need to open it so people can come and see it. And I employ an agent to help me through the process. So that's the normal way that I would sell my house. Now, consider I still want to sell my house, but here is the opposite. I'm not going to clean it up. I'm not going to tell anyone it's for sale. I'm not going to tell anyone. And I'm not going to use an agent. So I still want to sell my house. What does this look like? Right? Immediately you go, I don't know. I have no idea, right? And that's because your expert brain goes, I don't know. Like that's the opposite to how you would normally do it. Right. Push through. Think hard. So for instance, you might say, I'm going to Airbnb my house. And instead of people paying me, they can just tell other people. If they tell 5 people or 10 people that my house is for sale and they write reviews about my house and tell everybody it's out there, then I won't charge them. Or maybe I will charge them and I'll just ask them to spread the word. Maybe I'm going to sell lottery tickets for my house. Maybe they're really expensive lottery tickets, or maybe I'm just going to sell so many that it doesn't matter. Or maybe I'm going to run a Facebook competition, right? I'm not going to change the way it looks. I'm just going to go, hey, I might even run a Kickstarter campaign. I want to sell my house. Who wants it? Right? As soon as you free yourself up to start imagining crazy possibilities, you can come up with many different ways to achieve that same aim. So I would challenge you right now to think about this one. I want to reconnect with my customers or my clients, my people. Think about your connection and how it's been disrupted by COVID-19. And think about how important it is to people right now to revisit human connection. We've realized how valuable it is. We've realized how valuable it is to be able to see someone smile. We're already seeing more aggression on the streets, at least in the USA, not only because of leadership, but because you can't see people's faces. You can't tell if a stranger is smiling at you. And so people are already retreating back to what they know and feeling like the world is less friendly. So think about how you would normally reconnect with your customers and clients. How would you normally do it? Write down 3 of the best ways possible that you normally do this. And then the complete opposite. So if you say, I normally communicate with a newsletter, I normally send an email, I pick up the phone. Suddenly you don't send an email, you don't send a newsletter, you don't pick up a phone. You still want to reconnect. But what's the common theme to that? If I think about that for a second, the common theme is you. So what you actually want is for them to reach out to you. And how do you make that happen? So this is parkour, and I hope you can use that offline because it's a super useful tool. But I want to talk to you about the other aspect of surviving and thriving when you're constantly thinking in this other way, because it's exhausting. Now, understanding that some amazing things happen on the edge of chaos will give us the creative confidence to use adventurous thinking more often. But it's also physically and mentally exhausting to constantly not know. And that's where the concept of epic resilience is essential right now. It's a personal strategy, it's a family strategy, and it's a business strategy. And it's about mental and physical strength to survive, but then intellectual and creative resilience to help you thrive. And so the idea of epic resilience, it's actually a book I've written, but it's not available yet. But the idea of epic resilience is that we want people to feel competent, authentic, and connected. And we do that by starting with self-awareness, starting by looking at emotionally your boundaries and values and the way you connect. Physically, not just getting fit, but your strength. So if emotional is emotional strength in times of uncertainty, physical is your nutrition, your sleep, and your strength. We might be running a marathon in terms of the way we're thinking, but actually being physically strong has huge emotional benefits as well. So for instance, I box, so I hit the heavy bag every second day, and I've got a whole lot of people around me as part of my epic thing doing the same thing. Because when you hit a heavy bag, especially as a female, especially as an older female, you start understanding the physical power you are capable of. And when you understand that you have strength and power, you will start feeling more confident in the other aspects of your epic. So intellectual is about making sure you remain curious. In a time when we use Google for everything, if we want an answer, we go online. And you need to understand self-awareness. Resilient self-awareness is understanding that when you go on Bing or Google or whatever search engine you're using, every answer you see has been curated for you. It's based on what you've already looked at. It's based on who's paying the most money. It's based on the region and the language. If you truly wanted to find an interesting answer online, you will go to page 6, or maybe you'd Google on Danish Google or Australian Google, French Google, right? But what you get when you go to the internet is massive funneling and curation, and it stops us being naturally curious. So the intellectual resilient aspect is about ensuring we are curious. If you have kids, push them to be curious. And this is the idea of reading and finding information outside your area of expertise. If you're just learning new stuff around what you already know, that's expertise. That's specialization. Good on you. But that's not what I'm talking about with adventurous thinking and epic resilience. It's about finding unexpected knowledge in unexpected areas about things you don't already know about, because that is where you'll make these unexpected connections that'll move you forward and give you creative growth confidence. And then the creative aspect, again, creative thinking is nothing to do with artistry. It's nothing to do with craft. It's to do with keeping your brain actively wondering what if. Taking the knowledge you've just learned in your curious endeavors to learn new things, and what could I do with this? And then idea sharing. So what I've found is whenever I've run a class with Brazilians in it, you guys are the best at idea sharing. I would suggest right now in COVID-19, with so much fear in the community, this is the time to idea share. Because once you start sharing ideas with people and discussing ideas, not the latest stats, the latest deaths, the latest politics, discuss ideas and share ideas. And you realize that when you start doing that, you have more and more and more. This gives you confidence. It gives you confidence that's infectious. And once your optimism and your confidence is infectious, you start affecting other people and lifting others up. This works for a business. It makes it inclusive. To tick all of these boxes in a business means you will have the advantage of every single person at every layer of your organization feeling more creatively confident, which means they will be more innovative. And that means you will see growth. So I hope that you've got a feel for adventurous thinking and this very different mindset. I hope you'll go away and try the parkour tool on something that you're struggling with right now, because it has massive impact, right? And above all else, I hope that you can see that with the right tools and the right mindset, we don't have to fear chaos. We don't have to fear exponential change. There is massive opportunity in change. There is massive opportunity and growth to be had at this time when every single part of our life requires rethinking, and you will be the people to do it. So I wish you all luck. Obrigada. Thank you for tolerating my Australian accent. And I hope that you all seize the moment to be your best and to have the best impact that you can. Thank you.